Welcome, one and all. So good to see you all here. I don't know when the last time our sanctuary was so full on a Sunday. And I do also want to let you know this is going to be a Sunday service, not just a lecture. So join with us. Welcome to All Souls Unitarian Universalist Church. I'm Kate Mason, a lay leader here, and I'm delighted to be your worship host today. We are grateful to have you all with us, in person or online. Today's a very special day as we come together to ask, can forests protect our sacred earth? Just as we individuals, two-leggeds and four-leggeds, contribute to a rich, diverse, symbiotic community locally and globally, so do the trees and fungi, animals and plants create a living biosphere in the forests. Our seventh UU principle affirms and promotes our respect for the interdependent web of life. We look forward to hearing from our speaker today, Professor William Mumau, and Pam Kelly, who organized this service today, will give you a fuller introduction. And we welcome Dr. Kit Johnson and the All Souls Pop-Up Choir for enriching our service with music today. So, if this is your first time here, welcome, and we invite you to sign the guest book. It's back in the lobby. And if you sign it and check off the yes, you want comments, you want communication, you will receive church notices. And also there's information in the pews about All Souls. We have a great joy of coming together, and we want to make sure that everyone feels welcome. So this is our big opportunity to turn and greet each other and be joyful that we're all here together today. So. Welcome. And I'd also like to welcome those folks who are on Zoom. Matt, could you let us know who's here?
Sure. This morning we have Christine and Diane Dix, Ellen Blanchette, Gary, Lori Gordon, and Sharon Wyrick this morning.
Welcome. So let's sink in. I invite everyone to breathe. Breathe deeply. Come into this room. Be present, be focused, be at peace. In the words of Reverend Kathleen McTeague, we come together this morning to remind one another to rest for a moment on the forming edge of our lives, to resist the headlong tumble into the next moment until we claim for ourselves awareness and gratitude, taking the time to look into one another's faces and see communion. This house of laughter and silence, memory and hope is hallowed by our presence together. Let's take some time for quiet reflection. We have David Brule to do a land acknowledgement with us.
Morning, everyone. I want to thank Kit Johnson and certainly Kate Mason and Pam Kelly, who has worked tirelessly, and I can tell you from personal experience, Pam's efforts to promote information and knowledge and education about the value of our trees especially. I'm going to share with you a couple of thoughts and what has become a custom and an activity called the land acknowledgement that we often offer before engaging in further negotiations, conversations, or whatever. So what I'd like to do is remind you that we are standing on and benefiting from indigenous land. Our homes, our schools, our businesses and churches are built upon land that has been and continues to be indigenous homelands. The first peoples here in our region, the Pecumtuck, the Agawam, the Norwatuk, Nonotuck, Waranoco, they're not gone. Their voices are still here in the air that we breathe. This is still a place where their modern day descendants, the Nipmuc and the Abenaki, joined Pecumtuck ancestors across fluid lines of time and space. We acknowledge the continued presence, resilience, and sovereignty of the Nipmuc and the Abenaki nations. Indeed, the descendants of the Pecumtuck are here among us now. Those descendants have become more diverse as the new blended families blossom from historic ones. We are grateful to our ancestors and relatives gathered together here across time. But in addition to a land acknowledgement, honoring the ancestors, I like to turn things around and acknowledge the land itself. For indigenous people, the land is animate. We exist within an extended kinship with all those inhabiting this land. Human and non-human beings are interconnected within a social and spiritual set of reciprocal relationships. Native peoples have an intimate relationship with the earth, the stones, the waters, the trees, and woodlands, and some all human and non-human inhabitants. We are constantly renewing those relationships with all beings who share the landscape with us. In addition to acknowledging the land, we also acknowledge the beautiful rivers that are part of these indigenous homelands. The Pocumpetuk, known as the Deerfield River, the Pocummagun, that flows not far from here, now called the Green River, but Pocummagun knows its name. It was called that, and it knew its name for the past 10,000 years until recently the name was changed to Green River. But I always remind people that if you go down to the shores of that river and you say its name, Pocummagun, it will respond. She will respond. We also have the Bagwag River, now known as the Miller's River. That's my river address. I live on the shores of the Bagwag. The Wanastjuk, which is the Fall River. When you think about it, all these rivers converge right here. This is a very deeply spiritual place where we are right now. And of course, they converge with the Long River, known to the Nipmuc as the Quinectakut, and known to the Abenaki as the Kunetekwa. We've been taught by indigenous elders that at the beginning of any gathering, we should draw our minds together as one, to remember to be grateful and thankful for all that we have been given. So we give thanks to each of the four directions. We give thanks for this beautiful day. We give thanks to our ancestors who have guided us and who are here with us now. We give thanks to the last 7 generations and the next 7 generations in whose name we walk the right path and for whom we work every day to provide for their future. We give thanks to all the beautiful feathered and furred beings who accompany us and who are our kinfolk and our teachers. We give thanks to the beautiful flowers, forests, and plains, to our rivers whose waters have sustained us. Importantly, we do not have to ask the Creator for anything. All this has been given to us. In the Nipmuc language of this region, we give thanks for all good things. Tatauna mong nuicha nishno chagwane. Aho.
Thank you, David. It's our tradition that we light a chalice every Sunday. Tina will come up and light it, and I invite you to say the words with me next to the words chalice lighting. Life is a gift for which we are grateful. We gather in community to celebrate the glories and the mysteries of this gift. And now I invite you to look in your teal hymnal. So there are a number of teal hymnals scattered around, not this blue one. Those are the teal hymnals. I think we only have 40 or so, so share. So we'll sing this hymn together. If everybody could stand. And I think what we'll do is skip the congregational covenant after that, and then the choir will sing while we ask for the offertory.
I think we'll sing 4 verses.
Right. 1 through 4.
All our days you come.
Every week in our church, we take up an offering, which gives us the opportunity to exercise the generosity of spirit that supports All Souls and its many ministries. We see this act of giving, of growing more generous in our hearts and in our actions, as essential to our spiritual well-being. We will now receive the morning's offering, and the choir will sing This Pretty Planet, and you're welcome to join along if you know it. Thank you. Individually and together, we are building a world filled with peace and justice, love and joy. Each one of you, by your commitment of time, talent, and treasure, help to make that grand vision real. Now Pam will introduce Dr. Professor William Mumau.
Good.
Please just sit right up here when you want to. You don't have to come back down.
No, I'll be fine. Yeah.
Good.
Thanks.
If you wait just a minute, I'm going to
Sure,
introduce.
sure. Go ahead.
First, thank you so much for coming. I mean, you probably don't realize, but you've multiplied people who have come to our church today by about 4. So we're delighted that you're here. And we know that the person that you have come to hear is the guy right behind me, who is Dr. Mumau. He's a scientist, he's trained as a chemist, and he has a very useful YouTube that gives you the science behind the whole thing. And it's an insert. We were going to try to show part of it this morning, but it's an insert in your order of worship. At the bottom of the insert, you can watch it at home. And we hope you do. And then we hope that you put it out for other people in your community. So that while the field of science is constantly learning and changing, this YouTube gives a kind of basic introduction to the science and to the data and the maps and the insights. And we are spreading that to 13 UU churches in Western Mass. So this is one service, but we're doing outreach. We've already done the outreach to prepare the way for viewing that video in 13 other churches. If you sign up after the service in the All Souls list in the back, we can send you any science updates links that you need. Because all of this is very useful material for your family, your organization, and your congregation. And the reason why it's so useful is we have with us Dr. Mumau. We asked him a question. Can forest trees protect our sacred earth? And we realized that Dr. Mumau is one of the most best prepared citizens in the entire earth to answer that question in his own unique way. We are very grateful to have him with us today. Listen carefully as we seek each of us our own way to find the how. How can we bring joy, deeply meaningful longing to this moment in history? So please, make space in your life for Dr. Mumau.
Thank you very much, Pam, and not only for that nice introduction, but also for the amazing arrangements you have put together for me to be here. I really appreciate this opportunity and am honored to be able to speak with this group of informed Unitarians. I know that you people are very engaged, you are very informed, and I hope I'll be able to add something to that. I'm Bill Mumau. I live nearby in Williamstown and have spent my career as a university scientist identifying ways to address climate change for the last 40 years. As I pointed out to my students, you can see how successful I've been. It's a long slog, and it's a difficult transition that we're facing. But in the past 15 years, I've shifted from working on technological solutions, because we've caused many of our problems by technology. But I've shifted to looking more to natural systems, and you'll see in a moment why that's the case. I'd like to share 3 important insights with you. To maintain a livable climate and a livable planet, 1, we must reduce emissions from our technologies, but technology alone is insufficient to maintain a healthy planet. 2nd, forests in particular have saved us from planetary scale and climate collapse. I'll explain that as we go on. And they must retain their ecological integrity to continue performing these functions. They're not just a natural resource, but they are vital organs of a planet. We must avoid acting, third, we must avoid acting on misconceptions about forests so that we can so they can continue to perform their essential roles. Our middle-aged and mature forests here in Massachusetts and our old-growth forests where they occur elsewhere must be protected because we do not have time to wait for newly planted trees to lower the amount of atmospheric carbon dioxide to assure a safe climate. Now, I assume that all of you understand the entire Earth is warming, and the United States is getting warmer, and you've all noticed that your city and town and home location is getting warmer, and the weather patterns are no longer typical of what we think of as New England weather. Scientific studies found that the year 2003, last year, was the warmest year of the Earth in the past 2,000 years, and that it is likely that 2024 will be warmer still. Scientific research demonstrates that the climate is now being transformed in a much hotter condition and with unpredictable, highly variable weather conditions. Welcome to the last few days, right? Actually, my wife finally got to go skiing yesterday after 6 weeks of no snow. So, you know, it is a change for spring. And it's because we've added half again as much carbon dioxide to the atmosphere as was there naturally. And that's all from burning fossil fuels, degrading our forests, lands, and oceans. And the emissions of carbon dioxide and other so-called greenhouse gases have trapped the heat that the Earth is absorbed from the sun and cause the Earth to warm up. They're called greenhouse gases because they trap heat the way glass in a greenhouse does, or the windows of a hot car do. So think of this as the hot car effect, if you like. Our energy intensity economy is driven by the burning of fossil fuels that release this carbon dioxide, and it's clear that these emissions must be greatly reduced, and there must be technological innovations to accomplish this. However, whatever we do technologically will not be enough, and it will not fix the damage that we have done to the planet itself. So it is the natural systems that are actually doing the heavy lifting of addressing climate change today. Remarkably, despite all the carbon dioxide and other gases we've added, the atmospheric increase in carbon dioxide is less than half of what we put in every year. That's been known for, I don't know, decades. And it's always just been in the background in the scientific discussion. And the question is why? And it's because, for example, oceans remove an amount of carbon dioxide every year that's equal to about a quarter of what we put in. Forests remove an amount equivalent to about almost a third of what we put in. And were there no forests, current atmospheric carbon dioxide concentrations would have been achieved about 1960, and the concentrations today would have made the planet unlivable for us. Thank a forest. By controlling the amount of heat-trapping carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, forests have done more than any other natural system to maintain the benign, relatively stable climate in which all of human history has occurred during the past 12,000 years. This stable climate, this right-temperatured world, has made the agricultural revolution possible after the end of the last ice age, a revolution that now supports and feeds 8 billion people on Earth, not all of them adequately. Once people were able to settle down, the dawn of civilization and the birth of urbanization occurred in Mesopotamia about 6,000 years ago, and allowed development of the expansive industrialized civilization that we have today. Last year, I was appointed by the Secretary of Energy and Environmental Affairs, Rebecca Tepper, to serve on a committee exploring forests as climate solutions here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. 2 points of view dominated our deliberations. Either forests are a natural resource we can harvest and regenerate to maximize our economic returns, or they are an obstacle to the necessary expansion of towns, farms, industry, and even renewable energy development. And therefore, they must be cleared. The forest must be cleared. Our New Englander predecessors decided on both views and deforested 60 to 80% of all the forest in New England. After abandoning much of the cleared farmland in the middle of the 19th century, Massachusetts today has recovered 3 million acres of forested land, covering 60% of the state. Here we are, the third most densely populated state in the United States, and way more than half of it is covered with forest. It's really quite remarkable. And this is not a great, because of great planning. It's because of benign neglect. Everybody abandoned those farms, and the trees came back. They came home. There are barely 1,300 acres of original primary forest that survive today in Massachusetts, and those are in scattered fragments, many of them around western Massachusetts. At some point, the implication of this dual utilization perspective dawned on me while we were having these meetings over a 6-month period. We are stuck in a thought trap of the 19th century. We need a new way of thinking about our relationship to the natural world, and forests in particular. So my first assertion is that forests are not simply a natural resource, nor should they be thought of as an obstacle to economic development. Forests are nothing less than a vital organ of the living earth, essential to our survival, especially during this climate emergency. What does this mean? If you have a more literal worldview, forests are essential to our planet's operating system. Forests appeared some 300 million years ago, and the present Earth could not function without them. The upstart human species has only been here for less than 1/10 of that time, and in just the past 100 years has managed to reduce the amount of forested land by 1/3 and added that carbon dioxide to the atmosphere. Even those of us who celebrate forests for their intrinsic value, for their beauty, or as storehouses of biodiversity may be selling them short. Because, as we heard from David in his wonderful acknowledgement of the land, that forests are a single biodiverse system, part and parcel. And as Kate said, trees, birds, other animals, insects, lichens, fungi. Kate, did you look at my notes before you made that statement? I don't know. And bacteria, untold numbers of species of bacteria that we don't even know what they are, that are working together. And we're still discovering new ways of the way in which this living forest works. Incidentally, I got this idea of living forest from some discussions I and a group of about 6 scientists have been having with a group in the Ecuadorian Amazon via satellite. It's absolutely amazing. The people of the Sariaco region, and this is their worldview. To them, the world is the living forest. It is all one thing, and the living forest is the planet, and they have been very successful. As scientists, we think all of this rational stuff is great. We think that their way of thinking has been far more successful than ours. We acknowledge that. Forests are beautiful, peaceful, magnificent, but more importantly, they are our single best defense against climate and planetary collapse, as recent research has demonstrated. Forests are solar-powered miracles. Using the sun's energy and the availability of water, leaves absorb atmospheric carbon dioxide, combine it with water to produce wood. Yes, wood is actually made from air and water and a small addition of minerals from the soil in the presence of sunlight. Human technology has never been able to equal the remarkable process of photosynthesis. There are 2 prototype technologies that are now removing a few thousand tons of carbon dioxide per year from the atmosphere at tremendous cost and energy use. You and I, as American taxpayers, are spending billions of dollars for companies to build these machines. Big air sucker-uppers that extract just 0.04% of the gas in there that's carbon dioxide, and then they have to put it somewhere. But not a single human-made technology proposed today can conceivably scale and be as effective and at low cost as the existing and future forests of our planet. What's more, if we didn't have forest, a significant portion of Earth's viable livable land areas would be desert. That's right. Water evaporated by forests redistributes rainfall through atmospheric rivers to areas that would otherwise be forever drought-stricken. I don't know if you've been following the devastation in the Amazon, but as the Amazon is being depleted, the rainfall in the eastern part of the Amazon has diminished so much that the huge hydroelectric power stations that have been built there are no longer able to generate electricity. I worked with a lot of people in the water world, and this is one of these amazing facts. The air transport of water vapor in the Amazon basin from the forest to the Atlantic Ocean, the tons of water transported that way is greater than the tons of water delivered by the Amazon River, which is the largest river in the world. I mean, it is just astounding. And we've now done the experiment. You cut down the forest, and you cut down on the water. So, as leaves transpire and evaporate water, they also take away heat. And that heat is removed from large areas. As our region, the eastern United States, warms up, our forests are keeping us several degrees cooler than we would otherwise be. There was just a paper that published about 6 months ago that just demonstrated our eastern forests are really helping us be more resilient to a changing, warming climate. Add to this the role forests play in providing oxygen, purifying air and water, decreasing soil loss, providing us with life-giving medications, and soothing the nerves of frazzled humans who are calmed by being in their presence. And you start to get a sense of how critical forests are to us. But there are many misconceptions about forests. There is the claim that young trees grow faster than old trees. And we should therefore harvest these older trees and reforest with faster growing younger ones to remove more carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Well, this is like saying I have $1,000 in the bank, but if I get rid of it, I can start all over again with $1 tomorrow, and I'll be better off. Even if I'm earning greater interest on the $1, it's never going to catch up with where the $1,000 that I took out and got rid of someplace else. So this is a strategy for wasting if you like, the carbon money that we have in the bank. Well, surely the growth from a tiny seed to a little shoot is impressive. The scale of difference between a little tiny seed and a little growing tree is amazing. But that little tree doesn't have much carbon in it. The trees that have carbon in it are the bigger trees. And as the trees get bigger, they hold more carbon out of the atmosphere. For New England forest, the greatest rate of adding wood in trees is between about 50 and 150 years of age. And we have just a few forests that have reached the 150 years of age now, or exceeded it. So this is because we have trees that grow in New England forest that have expected lifetimes of 300 years or more. I have actually been shown a 370-year-old yellow birch in the Mohawk Trail State Forest. There are only a couple of them, but they're still there. They've seen a lot. Now, in the lower 48 states, unused residues from cutting down forest are often burned or left to decay. In 2016, the U.S. Forest Service published a study comparing the emissions from different types of forest disturbances. Wildfires, droughts, land conversions, insect infestations, and so on. And what they found was that the harvesting emitted 5 times as much carbon dioxide to the atmosphere as all those other things combined. Harvesting emitted as much heat-trapping carbon dioxide as all our coal-burning electric power stations. That's an astounding figure. That wasn't in the article, but I went and compared it. That's what it comes up to be. Not only are existing forests essential to storing carbon, but harvesting them releases significantly to our total carbon dioxide emissions. In other words, it's a double whammy. Planting more trees has been claimed as a solution for climate change. You may have heard of the trillion tree solution that got a little play about 3 or 4 years ago because some scientists said, if we planted 1 trillion trees, we could offset all the carbon dioxide we're emitting. He didn't mean that we could do it. He was just making a comparison. Immediately at the Davos conference, a certain American president and others said, well, that's what we'll do. We'll plant 1 trillion trees and just keep on doing business as usual. But a few years ago, after looking at a lot of research and a lot of data, I suggested it was existing middle-aged and older forests that were accumulating the most carbon out of the atmosphere today, and cited evidence that reforestation following harvest or planting new trees, which is called afforestation, would do little to decrease atmospheric carbon dioxide during the rest of this century. I argued that we needed to create more forest reserves free of harvest so that these forests could achieve their potential to accumulate the most carbon. By analogy to reforestation and afforestation, I termed the management practice of letting more trees grow proforestation. Well, my argument was highly criticized by the forestry industry, as you might imagine, and even by a major school of forestry that claimed there was no such management practice as proforestation in the field of forestry. My answer to that is simple. Foresters never considered ever letting any forest continue to grow unharvested. So there's no word for it. Well, in one study that I looked at, the volume of about 700,000 trees in 6 national forests had been put in a data set. So a young, ambitious person contacted me and another colleague and said, I could go through that data set and we could make some interesting findings. And what we found was that in these 6 national forests in the Pacific Northwest, just 3% of the largest trees that the Forest Service wanted to harvest held 42% of the carbon. 3 equals 42. That's an inequality you don't see very often. So because we've had sustainable forestry, meaning basically sustainable logging, we cut down trees, we let the others grow back, and then we harvest them when they're economically appropriate to harvest, has kept the US forest age average to about 60 or 70 years, with fewer than 5% of our forest exceeding 100 years of age. And these are forests that have trees that can live hundreds of years. And what that means is these forests never grow trees that are big enough to accumulate the carbon out of the atmosphere. So we'll have to, my whole approach to this is to say we need to have at least some areas where that is not, practice is not continued. Many experts have come to recognize how essential proforestation is in this time of climate emergency. I'm no longer with the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. I haven't done a report there since 2011. But in 2022, the report that came out then called for supported proforestation by stating that protection of existing natural forest ecosystems is the highest priority for reducing heat-trapping gas emissions. Highest priority. That's pretty strong. The report went on to state, maintaining the resilience of biodiversity and ecosystem services at a global scale depends on effective and equitable conservation of approximately 30 to 50% of Earth's land, freshwater, and ocean areas, including currently near natural ecosystems. End quote. That's a pretty strong statement. That picks up on E.O. Wilson's statement that Earth needs half. The great famous Harvard biologist who passed away 2 years ago. Yet we debate whether to harvest trees for floorboards and toilet paper or to cut them down for wider highways and solar panel arrays. To date, we've cleared more than 1/3 of Earth's forest off the planet. In western Massachusetts, half of the deforestation in recent years is to install large solar arrays. We do need more solar energy. But turning forests into sterile industrial zones is not the way to do it. We lose all the benefit of all the carbon dioxide removal of all those forests and all the other benefits that I listed for the rest of time. So let us first use our landfills. We're doing pretty well on that. Contaminated brownfields, those that have been contaminated with chemicals and things, and it's just too expensive to clean them up. Well, let's just pave them over with solar panels. Abandoned malls. How many abandoned malls are there with just huge space already cleared and ready to go? Home and store rooftops, highway and power line rights of way. There are just all kinds of places that we should do first before you even think about cutting down a forest. A Massachusetts study has found that that would be sufficient to get to our goal. A third false claim is claiming that burning wood to replace coal is carbon neutral because trees grow back. In fact, burning wood to make electricity or heat releases more carbon dioxide than burning coal or any other fossil fuel for the same amount of electricity or energy. Because it takes time for replacement trees to grow, there is always more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere from immediately releasing carbon dioxide from combustion. Had the trees been allowed to continue growing, they would have accumulated much more carbon. There will be the replacement trees will always be younger and smaller. Figure that out. I cut a 50-year-old bunch of trees and burn them, and then I replant trees, and then 50 years later, I may be back to where I was 50 years before, but those 50-year-old trees are now 100-year-old trees that have removed a lot more carbon dioxide. I mean, it's simple logic. It's quite misused. Massachusetts successfully ended a major policy in which electricity users paid electricity suppliers to cut down forest and burn the wood for electricity. But there is still a charge on your electric bill that supports some harvesting for wood burning. Ending those subsidies in the practice would protect our forests and our health. At the national level, the administration has called for the U.S. Forest Service and Bureau of Land Management to identify the presence of high carbon containing mature and old growth forests on federal lands, with the purpose of protecting them for their present and ongoing carbon accumulation. And the Forest Service has announced that they're going to rewrite the forest management plans for all 128 national forests. But then it slipped out that the instructions going to the foresters in the field, in the national forest was, in the meantime, we'll keep managing it the way we're managing under the current system, which is to cut and harvest these very forests. And so a group of us scientists who work on these issues were concerned that this would lead to exactly that, harvesting. And so we put together a scientist letter, which was signed by 195 scientists, including names you may know, like Jim Hansen and big names in the climate world, calling for a moratorium until those rules are developed. And that has been sent to the White House, it's been sent to the Secretary of Agriculture, it's been sent to the Secretary of Interior, and it's gotten a fair amount of attention. I was astounded. The responses I got from the most prominent scientists was, thank you for doing this. This is really important. Sign me on. Often when you send these letters out, you get ignored, or you get, okay, sign me Joe Blow, professor of something or other somewhere. These were really enthusiastic supports. Unfortunately, many federal forests continue to be cut or plan to be cut soon, including our own New England Green Mountain National Forest and White Mountain National Forest. And I understand there's still an opportunity until midnight tonight to submit your views online, if you have an opportunity to do so. Now, most older folks grew up thinking of trees as a wonderful renewable resource, and it was true. As long as forests dominated terrestrial ecosystems and human populations were scattered not too large, and before we began pumping the atmosphere full of carbon dioxide, chopping down trees was considered a splendid and sustainable way to obtain wood, fuel, and living space. That's similar to donating your blood to the Red Cross once every few months as a splendid and sustainable way to help others in need. Now imagine donating blood every day from multiple veins. That's not a blood draw, that's a blood drain that would jeopardize the donor's life. And yet that's exactly what we're doing to the forest, draining the life force of a battered system that is absolutely critical to our survival. No amount of tree planting can make up for this kind of destruction. To return to the operating system analogy, if you let someone strip a few essential minerals from chips in your laptop computer for profit, what price do you pay when the computer fails to function at all? Trees literally hold our planet together. from the deep soil to the upper atmosphere. While we have virtually no old-growth forest in Massachusetts, our existing middle-aged and mature Massachusetts forests will accumulate significantly more carbon than will younger saplings during the essential coming decades that we have left to slow and reverse global climate change. Our older forests are literally irreplaceable in the time we have to rein in and reverse the climate changes we've wrought. For 152 years, we've celebrated Arbor Day. Arbor Day tree plantings have become an annual feel-good tradition in all 50 states and many other countries. He who plants a tree plants a hope, said Lucy Larcom in those early years, reflecting a reverence for the single little green sapling that's still prevalent today. Young trees are a promise and an offering, a kind of payback for past indulgences. But what about the mature forests we still have? The truth is, our time-honored Arbor Day and our whole way of thinking about trees and forests is overdue for a 21st century upgrade. On April 26th, Arbor Day, this year, by all means plant a tree and agree to take care of it with the bright hope that it will someday shelter your grandchildren and their children too. And as you plant that little sapling, plant an idea. The world's existing forests are vital organs, Earth's best line of defense between us and a climate catastrophe. But a forest is not just a bunch of trees. We can plant a tree, but we cannot plant a forest. Only a forest can make a forest. So to summarize, in order to maintain a livable climate, we must reduce our emissions from our technologies, but technology alone is insufficient to maintain a healthy planet. Forests in particular have saved us from planetary scale and climate collapse, and they must retain their ecological integrity to continue performing these functions. They are not just a natural resource, but are vital organs of this planet, this living planet. We must avoid acting on misconceptions about forests so that they can continue to perform their essential roles. Our middle-aged and mature forests here in New England must be protected. We do not have time to wait for newly planted trees to lower the amount of atmospheric carbon dioxide to assure a safe climate. So it's high time we honored our forests for the irreplaceable service of planetary livability they provide, and make certain that our forests will remain capable of accomplishing that essential task into the indefinite future. Just 17 miles west of Greenfield on Mohawk Trail State Forest in Charlemont stand the tallest trees in all of New England. White pines as tall as a 20-story building. They're located within the largest high carbon density forest in the entire Northeast United States that extends from the Connecticut border, western Massachusetts, into southern New Hampshire and Vermont. The only other area which actually exceeds it is, of course, the Adirondack Reserve in upper New York State, which is protected by a constitutional amendment not to be harvested. There are single trees in this forest that hold 5 tons of carbon. 5 tons of carbon. The report we prepared for Secretary Tepper calls for much more forest reserves, and legislation has been proposed for that a greater part of our state's amazing forests can meet their carbon, biodiversity, and climate potential. These bills are in the legislature right now, and I would just close by saying, if you care, get involved. Thank you for this opportunity to join with you here today. My leg's stiffened up. Okay, I'll sit back there. Okay.
Thank you, Professor Mumau. Now it's time to sing, and I invite you to stand. Some of you might have gotten the words to the climate, Sing for the Climate. Some of you can pick it up. There's a couple of shouts in there that you can join in if you don't know the words. So the choir will lead us.
If you found your typewritten page, would you hold it up, please?
To find somebody who's cut it.
The music, we would have liked to have supplied you with music, but it didn't seem to be available online or in the music. So we're going to teach it to you with a little call and response. And the most important thing about this song actually is not the lyrics, perhaps, not the pitches or the notes or the rhythm, but the spirit with which you sing it. So, yeah, we have 4 shouts. Raise your fist in the air and give a good hearty yell. So, it's going to go like this. We'll do, as I say, the call and response. We need to wake up. Go. We need to wake up. We need to wise up. And we need to wise up. Okay. We need to open up our eyes and do it now. Ready, go. We need to open up our eyes and do it now. We need to build a better future. Big breath. We need to build a better future. And we need to start right now. Go. And we need to start right now. And then this is the spot. Yay! To begin. Ready? Here we go. Yay! 3 more. Yay! And yay! And yay! And then we go, then you have a couple measures rest, and we start in on the second verse. Okay? And we'll do a second verse, and a third verse, and a fourth verse, and on the 4th time, you jump to the 5th. You don't have to. I have a written out copy. It's not published. But we repeat a little part at the end that goes, we need to build a better future, and we need to do it now. So that's just the way we do it. Okay? So, hope you enjoy it.
This was sung all over Europe for the last 11
Now is the time in our service for sharing joys and sorrows. So if you have a sorrow, needs help of this community, or a joy, a mic will be brought to you. Pam will bring you a mic, and you can express your heart. It isn't a time for announcements. We'll have time for announcements afterwards, and try to keep it personal and short, right, Christine? Brief. So. Yeah. The light isn't going on. Is it working now? Press and hold for 2 seconds. There we go.
So if you have something that you would like to bring to the community, a concern, a hope, this is the time for us to bring it to the community, bring it to Dr. Mumau.
Don't tell anybody about this, unless you feel like it. I heard a rumor that spring is coming.
I'll light to that.
And Rob is going to light candles.
My greatest concern as a senior citizen is for our children and what we're doing to the planet. And I think we all need to do whatever we can do to reduce our carbon emissions. So pay attention. If your town has energy committees and they're holding energy fairs, go to those energy fairs and see what you can do. We're holding one in Shelburne Falls because I'm on the Town of Shelburne Energy Committee, and we're doing it on April 27th from 11 to 4 p.m. at the Buckland Shelburne Elementary School. So please do what you can to save our planet for our kids.
By the way, we will have an opportunity for real announcements after this. So this is more like, yeah, that's okay. Don't worry. I do it myself.
Well, I'm sharing a joy. I had to cut pieces for a birdhouse in the basement. A couple weeks ago, I put it together and put it up, hoping bluebirds would come. And this morning, there was a pair using the house.
Yay!
Hi, my name's Russ, and I have a couple of personal sorrows. 4 years ago today, John Prine passed away from COVID-19. He was a great inspiration for me. I've listened to his music since the 1970s, and the first time I saw him, right down the street, when the Garden Theater still had a stage. And the other one is for Ursula Marie Snow. Next month it'll be 5 years since she passed. She was there from Shelburne Falls. A really tragic ATV accident. And today would have been her 18th birthday. Thank you.
A few years ago, we moved to Greenfield, and I think a lot of the reason was we found a place with unbelievable treasure of these old-growth trees, and that's a lot of what made our place so beautiful and attracted us. And we're never going to cut them down, right? Thank you.
Good evening, church. I'll give it to you next. Annie Hassett here. I'd like a few things I'm thinking about. First, the nations, all the Native Americans who realized our understanding between the earth and the trees and all our relations. The other one, I want to light a great candle of joy for all the people that stood for trees. I'm especially thinking this morning of Beth Adams, who was avid to be out there. I saw many a big tree with her, and all the known and unknown. So a candle of joy for them and appreciation.
I've lived in Greenfield. My name's Glenn. I've lived in Greenfield for more than 10 years, and I've never been in this church. And when I walked in, the first, it is close to my mouth, yeah. The first thing that struck me when I walked in here was the wood. And for people that are here all the time, it's probably just maybe something you don't notice, but for me, I noticed the wood, and what it symbolized to me was reverence. That this was a holy place, and there was a reverence for wood, which I think represents nature, and we're sitting on wood, and we're surrounded by wood, which to me was very symbolic of what the talk was about today, and that we have a reverence for wood, and we need to incorporate that into our lives, not just in church, but throughout the rest of our being.
Hi. So my name's Ellen, and this is a joy, and it's actually a momentary joy because, as many of you know, I've had a lot of trouble with my voice, and I'm a singer, and I haven't been able to sing. And today, while you were doing that song, I was singing. And I've been, for like the last 2 weeks, I've been on a new medication that's supposed to help me breathe more. And apparently, it's doing more than I expected, because there's a little hope in me now that I'm going to be able to sing again. Yay!
As I make my way back, I want to take the privilege of the mic just to say, hope is an amazing thing. It gives you a sense of power. It gives you energy when you didn't think you had it. And I think what Professor Muma has to say is to give us hope. It's not hope exactly. It's science that is real. So it's almost like when you tell people make hope, you're actually telling them they don't have any. So, but this is more than that. This is real stuff. It's like we can pull the carbon out of the atmosphere. We just have to stop cutting the trees.
Hi, I'm Tina, and I've had the same feelings of this wood in here, and when I see wood in people's apartments that I clean, that's just so beautiful. And I think of this tree that's out there that I don't want to cut down. But I also don't want to waste the wood that's already been used. And I'd also like to light a candle with hope for the higher power to grant me tolerance of those with different struggles, including one brother who is dealing with his recovery and addictions, and my other brother who happens to be the head of Rex Lumber Company in Virginia, which supplies the wonderful wood for, of one thing, Gibson Guitar Company, which just all these different, contrasts of feelings about wood affect me. But thank you.
Anybody on Zoom? Okay.
My name is Anne, and I want to express a deep gratitude to Bill Mumau for his work over many, many years and his deep commitment to using science and his big heart to work on behalf of the climate and our climate awareness and on the planet. So thank you very much, Bill.
First, a candle of sorrow, because in addition to the physical toll that climate change is taking, I think for many, mental health is also something that's significantly impacted. Sadly, particularly among young people. A dear friend told me her son is dealing with depression, and that is something I know all too well, how painful it is. The second is a candle of deep thanks to you, because I know how deeply you believe in this, and it's so wonderful to see how much your passion has brought not only Dr. Mumau here, but all of you here. It's a great joy. And speaking of Dr. Mumau, thank you for reminding me that the forests are the lungs of the planet, and that in a culture that extols youth, there's a lot to be said for growing old.
Thank you, Rob. I also want to thank David Brule for his remarkable land acknowledgement and reminding us to be grateful with the 12,000-year-old history that has developed on gratefulness, really, in the culture that you should be more aware of.
I'd like to say that bushes are also a part of it, and flowers are a part of it. So plant some kind of plant.
So we'll light one last candle symbolically for all of you and all the others who I'm sure have joys and concerns, but who didn't have a moment to speak them out loud. They are really welcome here.
Spirit of community in which we share and find strength and common purpose, we turn our minds and hearts towards one another, seeking to hold in our hearts all our joys and sorrows, both spoken and unspoken. Let us open our minds and hearts to the place of quiet, to the silent prayer for the healing of pain and the soft, gentle coming of love. Blessed be. In response to our joys and sorrows, we're going to sing hymn number 123 in the gray hymnal, Spirit of Life by Carolyn McDade.
Come
seated. The world is too beautiful to be praised by only one voice. May you have the courage to sing your part. The world is too broken to be healed by only one set of hands. May you have the courage to use your gifts. Go in peace, create peace, be peace.
I'll remember April.
Thank you, Kit.